see this on the scale of it, but I do not know quite exactly that.
I can comment on that.
Yeah.
You should YouTube that eugenics in Nazi Germany propaganda. I'm sure you could pull something up. You just put propaganda, Nazi Germany, eugenics, and YouTube. They've got all sorts of video propaganda they used during the 30s to promote it. And so it was not under the table type that was going on here. It was you do your favor to the fatherland by reporting people that have abnormalities or physical defects or mental defects for sterilization.
And it was a very popular movement actually here too. So it was everything was up in front. So I mean that, as you said, that could be very much very similar. Yeah, John.
That's actually, I was going to ask that. So it wasn't underneath the table. It was kind of out in the open. So then, why is it? Because like I was telling you earlier, I was having a conversation earlier with two people, and they both thought that when I brought it up, it was a conspiracy theory. And I was trying to explain. I was trying to explain to them, no, this is realistic. This is reality. This really happened. This really did happen. And they're like, yeah, well, yeah, YouTube will tell you anything you want to hear. And I looked at it and I said, no, this is really...
These are the guys talking about aliens, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
Well, you believe what you want to believe, I guess. And I was trying to explain to them that it was reality. I guess, why is it coming out only so much now in 2010 if it wasn't underneath the table?
It's funny, that's a really good question. And it's weird because as I've been sort of doing my research, I mean, I've seen mailings, and like in Iowa, they sent out like 20,000 mailings of this sterilization like survey that to like ask about everything. And there was pamphlets sent out weekly. There's newspapers in all the major Iowa, or like news articles in all the major Iowa newspapers. And you had like H.G. Wells, and who was a huge human rights supporter. I mean, this was actually, at least in the day before, you know, especially prior to Hitler. I mean, it was seen as a really social progressive movement. I mean, people were really kind of on the bandwagon because they were like, oh, well, this is something that, you know, could be used. So, so why is it not necessarily something that we know about today? I don't know how many generations, you know, maybe have been removed from it, but I know, I mean, I think that's what I'm still trying to figure out. Do you know what I mean?
I want because I've never really talked to somebody. Mainly, it's been people of my age and age group. And I've always wanted to kind of, ever since I heard about it last week, so I haven't been informed of it. I want to ask somebody who has some age and experience.
I mean, it's
maybe
you're totally right. I mean, that's something that I've been still trying to grapple with. Is like, when did it, you know, or why is it not? And because you still see, especially in different countries now, I mean, it's a very prevalent issue, at least amongst for population control in China and India. And then in the 70s, we had the Native American issue that was going on. So it's still something that I'm trying to unravel too.
Yeah.
So
I want you to talk more about that in a second.
Yeah, sorry.
But I know, I didn't want to interrupt either. But this is, so if you think that it wasn't being advertised in America, if you go, I found this when I was just doing some research for Beth. On NPR, they found these photographs from, it was called like the Fittest Family.
Yeah, the Fittest.
Fittest Family.
Yeah.
We'd go around to local state fairs.
Better.
And, the Better Family or whatever it is. And the American Eugenics Society would have all this propaganda, or
it'd be at all the like the state fairs. They would all have
fit and unfit. You know, pure plus pure, abnormal plus abnormal, and again, you can see the fascination.
That's the thing I was just going to say is that we've been doing eugenics with animals and plants.
Well, that's actually where it started. I mean, that's actually where they got it, because they were like, oh, we can manipulate plants.
And if you think that this isn't have a racial, racially charged, this, you know.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to see it without the lights on, but yeah.
Seriously.
And so you can see there are all these, you know, devices and machines. So
Where was this?
Some of these came from, I think specifically this was from Kansas.
Kansas, and that's what I was thinking also, because I mean, I've lived in other states for, you know, a period of time, but it hasn't been a long, significant amount of time where I would bring up, you know, stories like this, but maybe it's just because we're from Minnesota. That's, you know, Minnesota.
No, but Minnesota had it. They were huge in immigration policy. Minnesota had.
They were pen pals with Hitler. So.
Did we publicize it like this?
Yeah.
Minnesota would? Huh.
Don't you think part of the reason why it's not so prevalently known today is because in the 60s
70s, it was kind of quashed.
Yeah.
And so generations that were born, I mean, I was like 5 in the 70s or whatever, and generations, I didn't see it because I was 5, you know, and then it was quashed. So you have to be, you know, quite a bit older to have any memory of any of it happening.
Yeah.
Well, there's huge movements too during that time, the civil rights movement and also
Yeah.
sort of the disability movement and human rights and everything else that sort of gained steam at that time too. So that I think can really also add, we're just shifting our focus to what's going on.
Well, don't you think too, you know, a lot of it is the feminist movement as well, that,
And that was
you
huge,
know, I think
yeah.
that it's a huge part of
Mhm.
the whole thing.
Took
And
headlines.
it was
over
a
other
huge
stuff.
part, especially promoting access and stuff like that.
I would say it was predominantly done
Yeah.
for,
Yeah,
you know,
And it became an embarrassment for people to admit that it happened, so they didn't talk about
right.
it.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
who owns history?
Yeah.
You know, the
The
wealthy.
voice.
Who has a
Well,
voice? Yeah.
Yes.
It took him how long? 50-some years to apologize for Tuskegee?
I was just gonna say.
I mean, but I think one of the interesting flip sides to this is that we're talking about forced sterilization. We're talking about giving the government literally the right over your reproduction, whether it stays or goes. The flip side of this, naturally, that's happening right now, of course, is abortion. It's the same thing. You know, either you give the government right to say you have to have a baby, or you can't have a baby. It's the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
Did you have a question?
It mentioned in one of the videos that they used it for sexual deviance. Is there any states that still use that for sex offenders?
They used to, like, they might, and this is another word that sort of goes to the coercion a little bit maybe. I know in certain cases at least, and this is back in sort of the 50s when I was doing my research, they would give you more lenient sentence if you agreed to be sterilized. At least in Iowa, they had sort of an uneven sort of constitution with at least state law, where it was deemed unconstitutional in 1913 because it was predominantly on criminals and prisoners and inmates and stuff like that, and they actually said that was undue punishment. And so then it's shifted to basically people in mental institutions and those that were feeble-minded. And so I don't necessarily know if this is still happening, but there might be something where, at least for maybe repeated sex offenders, they might give more lenient sentences or something like that if they choose to get sterilized. But that's something I'm still looking into too. Yeah.
I got a question. You keep talking about like inmates and stuff like that. I was wondering if kind of like the eugenics of forced sterilization ever kind of diverted to a forced castration of like sexual predators in prisons.
That's a really good. I don't know the answer on that, but because I know before vasectomies were done, I mean they did do castrations, and so I don't necessarily know if, but I do know that was a way that they did it prior to the vasectomy.
Because I know now,
Do they?
I've seen there's a couple states that offer it as a opt-in.
Oh.
It's a voluntary castration.
Yeah.
And they go through a whole program or whatever for basically like I said, sexual predators.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's opted in for it yet.
Yeah.
But instead of sterilization.
It's a really interesting. Yeah, I have to research
Because a
that.
vasectomy wouldn't
No.
have any change in the physical,
No.
but like I said, a medical or chemical
Yep.
sterilization would.
Yeah, no, that's a really. I need to look up that. Everyone's like a no. Sorry.
Other question?
Oh, I have another. So we talk a lot about it being linked to race, but what statistically, you haven't mentioned, is it far more people of color that were sterilized, or ratio-wise, or what's the?
That then really depends on which state too. Definitely in North Carolina, huge racial issue. In Iowa, not so much, but it wasn't. I don't think racial issues weren't there. It was just that Iowa's population was 95% predominantly white, and so I think that there's definitely issues surrounding that were happening all over the country. But I think by state and by who gets sterilized is definitely about demographic ratios and stuff like that, what's going on there at least. But you definitely see racial aspects of that, and especially right now with immigration.